Hey everyone, it's Greg from Six Sided Discs, and welcome back to All Six Sides, our podcast where we explore the world of disc golf from every angle. Before we get started, a quick announcement. As I'm reading this to you right now, we are at 9,993 subscribers, so we're going to hit 10,000 subscribers any minute now. And to celebrate, for the last 4 months, I've been working on attempting 10,000 putts. We're tracking every single putt, and by the end, we'll know my exact putting percentage down to 2 decimal places. After the first 150 putts, though, my percentage was pretty bad. From 27 feet, it was only 21%. And here's where you can play along. I want you to guess what my final putting percentage will be between all 5 putters that I'm using, and the closest guess will receive a 3-disc mystery box of your choosing from our website, valued between $54 and $64. Time is running out, so enter the giveaway by completing the form on our website at the link in the video description before our 10,000 subscriber special drops at 11 a.m. Eastern on Thursday, June 13th. Today, though, we're joined by Team Six Sided Discs' own Caleb Thomas right here in the studio. Caleb, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You all know Caleb from our other video series where he throws disc after disc after disc so we can compare their flights. Make sure you support him by following him on Instagram and on his YouTube account. Links are in the description. Today's podcast is all about the tech disc, which we have with us here in the studio. Caleb, you've been using the tech disc for the last few months. I think I gave it to you at the beginning of the year,
like a while ago,
January, February, something like that. Maybe we got it I think I was emailing with tech disc around November.
It was kind of when tech disc blew up. Like everyone, a lot of the Pro Tour players were messing with them, getting their numbers, and that was, like you said, February.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And I think the idea was to give you an opportunity to use it in the off season to try and work on your form. And then we didn't really have an idea of what kind of video we wanted to do with the tech disc. Lots of people were trying to do stuff with it, and I didn't really quite have that idea yet. But I think we kind of settled on just give it to you, let you use it, and see what it does for you.
Yeah, just kind of see my thoughts on it. Yeah,
exactly. For those of you that aren't familiar, the tech disc is a small device that's affixed to the bottom of a disc that measures speed, spin rate, nose angle, wobble. It's got a whole bunch of sensors like accelerometers and gyros packed into the bottom there, and it helps you better understand your form and hopefully help you figure out what is or isn't working. So when you got into using it, what were some of the kind of initial things that stood out? Were there certain metrics that stood out or things that you knew you wanted to work on? Was there anything about your form that you knew needed adjusting?
Yeah, so the very first thing, everyone, whenever they get a tech disc, the first thing they want to see is the speed. That's obviously clearly the first thing you want to do. And then the speed and the RPMs. Spin's another huge one. I would say the speed, the spin, and probably the launch were my top 3 I wanted to work on. Wobble as well, because wobble's been a thing with me for a while. I'm trying to work on. The first thing I did, probably everyone's going to do when they get a tech disc, is they go and just rip it as hard as they can to see what their top speed is. I mean, I'm sure I was sore for probably a week after the first 100 throws I did it, just trying to rip it with the speed. But then once I actually started taking my time to kind of slow it down and kind of hit my power pocket more to actually get more speed with less power, a lot of the Pro Tour guys have been mentioning, then I kind of started tweaking my form a little bit. And spin was not really that high for me when I first had it. Spin was something that was 950 to 1,000, and then a lot of my buddies would get on it and they'd be 1,200 spin. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. And I've been trying all these different techniques, watching videos, trying to get the spin rate higher. And I think in all the, what's it called?
Is it the simulator? Well, there's a simulator that shows you the flight path, but then there's obviously tables and graphs that show you just the raw data of all the throws that you're putting in.
Yeah, just
kind of compares them against each other.
Yeah, which is what I gave you for the login stuff that you had.
Yeah.
All of the most recent throws, you can kind of see, I think my spin rate slowly goes up because I'm trying to work on just keeping it on a level playing, the level field, just single line the entire time instead of a lot of you guys saw, I kind of go like that with the disc. It kind of I reach back perfect, and then I go like that and move it, and then it comes out weird, which is what creates a little bit of wobble.
It goes down a little bit, I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to work on. But if you see in the graph, I think you can kind of see the spin rate goes up a little bit over time, and then the wobble starts going down as well, because I'm working on a lot of it.
I'll overlay some screenshots of the data as we're kind of talking about it here, just as a point of reference. For anyone that hasn't used it, the tech disc is measuring all of this and then plotting it for you in just a huge amount of data that you can pull from. There's tables that show each individual throw. You can categorize them by the throw type that you chose, date and time stamps for all of it, and then you can kind of compare. And if I'm not mistaken, you can also set like parameters for how far or like the wind or sort of conditions and elevation that you're
Yeah.
throwing at as well.
It's kind of overwhelming how many things you can do with that thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was wondering is like was I think that curiosity about like how fast you throw, I think everybody like that's a quick and easy way to be like,
Yeah.
I throw faster than whoever. But was there a moment where you kind of realized like, okay, that speed isn't everything, and maybe focusing on like individual metrics outside of speed were more important or more valuable?
Yeah, speed is not everything at all. I mean, everyone thinks it is. I first thought it was when I had it, but I started realizing that spin and the launch is what really gets your disc in the air and makes, obviously the spin makes it stay in the air longer, and the launch is the initial launch out of your hand, which has that snap, which also is speed at the same time, but also, I mean, there's people that throw 65, 66 that can throw 550 because they have so much spin.
Right.
And there's also the guys that throw 74 with only 1,000 spin, but that speed kind of makes up for it. So I guess what I'm getting at is you don't need to throw 75 mile an hour to throw 550.
I think I was watching maybe it was the All-Star Weekend distance competition, and you see the technique that different players have and the speeds that they record and stuff. And obviously I think it stands out like Anthony Barella throwing over 80 miles an hour is insane.
It's ridiculous.
But he also gets the launch angle just right. There's a huge amount of spin on the disc. Like all of those things factor in and become really important to how you get that disc to fly the way that you want it to. Or, I mean, yeah, you could throw a disc at 100 miles an hour, but if the angle's wrong, it's just going to go left and left and left and left and nothing else. So, as you were working on your form specifically, did you watch anything? There's no shortage of form tip advice things on YouTube. It's kind of a genre that I've tried to stay away from with what we do because I think it's a really oversaturated space, and I also think that the type of content you get there is very subjective. But I'm curious if you found anything that was useful, or outside of that, like, did you go to any clinics? Did you like talk to anyone to get specific tips on how to make those improvements?
Yeah, there's a couple things. So I like going on YouTube and watching form advice, but also it's YouTube. So a lot of these guys, they know what they're talking about. I'd like to see them in person throw 550. Like when I went and saw Drew Gibson 2 years ago at Idlewild with the clinic. He didn't throw any in person, but I know he's got it in him. So
yeah,
he had a ton of information, but it was almost like it was too much information to where like he just said so much in that hour to where I couldn't comprehend and single out something, to where I was like, I'd go home and look at more YouTube stuff, and I would just overwhelm myself before I go to bed, or whenever I go out there. I know what I'm supposed to do to throw like this, but then when I'm about to do it, my muscle memory just kicks in. I go back to all the old stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's taking one thing at a time to really kind of dial in. So if you need to work on a power pocket, take 2 weeks, just hit the power pocket. Then you got to work on transferring your weight, take a week for doing that. Just doing things one by one kind of helps a lot. But I also went and saw Bradley Williams at NADGT with Gannon Burr, Alden, and all them. And they had most of their tips are mostly on putting. But Philo had a couple of good things about the power pocket. I also asked Bradley Williams about my issue about me doing this thing and like kind of, I'm not like slinging the disc. I'm kind of like letting go of it almost, it feels like. And he noticed that right off the bat, and he gave me a couple form things to help. But there was also so many people that he was trying to help, so he didn't really go in depth with it.
Right.
But I mean, super cool dude. He was very nice about it. He helped me. He said that a lot of people have the same issue where they kind of like let go of it. A lot of like amateurs. But yeah, he helped a lot. I would say with YouTube though, with form work, I like to watch the Disc Golf Doctor. Have you ever heard of him?
I haven't. No.
I think it's Disc Golf Doctor. He's got a very, very sharp accent. He knows what he's talking about though. Him, and I also got the Power Disc Golf Academy.
Okay.
And I'm a big Ezra Aderhold fan, so I've been watching him a little bit. But just straight on YouTube, I would say the Disc Golf Doctor. I think that's his name. I hope I'm not wrong.
We'll look it up afterwards, and I'll give him a.
He's got like glasses. He's kind of a fit dude. He knows what he's talking about.
Nice.
And Overthrow, again, super like awesome channel, super cool people. But I don't know. I just feel like I'd rather see someone throw like 550 in person or like in a video, and I don't know, great information overall, but I just feel like I don't want to watch too many people because then I just overwhelm myself. So I just try to stick with one.
I think obviously it's different because you're focusing, I think, the majority of it on your backhand form because you're more like backhand dominant and focusing on like specific pieces of that form. But I resonate a lot with what you're saying about trying to do too many things at once. So throughout the 10,000 putts that I've been working on, I still don't know my preferred putting style.
It's
And
been
I've
too long.
changed it so many times, and there'll be some days where I'm like, okay, this feels perfect, and I know I want to do this thing, and so I'm almost trying to get away from thinking about it so much,
Mm.
and just like maybe there's just one part of my routine that I can focus on. Like, okay, I know I want to focus on pushing off of my back leg and following through with my putting hand, right? So those two things, like when I forget to do those things, I miss more than when I forget to do something
Mm.
else.
Yeah.
And if I'm thinking really hard about like, oh, where am I pulling the disc back to and how am I releasing it? I find really easily I start overthinking those things and I'm early releasing or late releasing or whatever.
Mm.
So I like what you said about like trying to focus on a specific thing. Like, okay, I'm only focused on one thing. I think
Yeah.
when people are new to disc golf, they over focus on all these things. They're
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I've never thrown a disc before, and I'm going to try and do an X step,
Just
and I'm
brain
going to try and
overload.
adjust,
Yeah.
this or that, and it just becomes too much that you can't make adjustments to everything all at once. The whole process of throwing a disc happens in like a second and a half,
Yeah, literally.
like your whole run up.
Mhm.
So how can you possibly go through this like 30 item checklist?
No, it's tough because right when someone gets into the sport, they go on YouTube and they watch all these great videos, and it's just hard to do it at once. Paul Macbeth, when I was at D-Glow last year, told me something, and it stuck with me. He said, if you teach someone that's never thrown a disc before good form, they will have great form.
Yeah.
But if you teach someone that's been throwing bad form for 3 years, like myself, you can't teach them good form because they have all these bad habits.
You have to unlearn all
You
that.
have to. It's like you have to learn to walk again, and
Yeah.
it sucks because like you've been playing for so long, putting all this work in. You're getting better overall. Like with myself, I went from throwing this far, now I'm getting further, but I've been doing almost the same form overall, to where I feel like I'm almost like limited now because unless I just take 5 steps backwards
Right.
to take 15 steps forward in 6 months, if I just redo my whole form.
It's almost like you've gone so far down a path with bad form that like you've gotten as good as you can get
Yeah.
with that form.
And now I'm
you
just-
you got to work your way back
Yeah.
to then start down hopefully the right path.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they always say. You take a couple steps backward, take more forward,
Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah. There were a lot of putting sessions where they were just lots of steps backwards. Oh, it was brutal. I'll talk more about that in the special next week, but man, it was rough. Okay, so let's talk about some of the individual metrics. Speed just being the first one that's fun to see go up. How did you see any big improvements in speed, or was that somewhat consistent over the time you were using the tech disc?
Yeah, speed was, yeah, that was the first thing I did. I think if you go in the very beginning of when I was throwing that, I think my top speed was like 58 to 59.
Mm-hmm.
And in the video that you did with the lighter disc, I was only throwing like 59 to 60.
Yeah, where we were actually
And I thought I was going to hit like 65.
we actually had the speed gun out testing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, let's focus on hitting the power pocket. Let's focus on like coiling your shoulders. And let's really like try to get the speed up to see if I can like feel if it feels good and I can replicate it. And in about an hour and a half, I went from 58 to I think 66, and I was like, whoa. And then I started doing it more and more to where now my actual speed is around 64 to 69, I'd say. I'm probably like 65, 66 consistently now.
Yeah.
Like there's been a couple, there was a couple 70s in there, but after that I'm like, yep, not throwing again. I hit 70, I'm done. That hurt.
Yeah.
But,
Pitch count. Time
yeah.
to take a break. Yeah.
But speed for sure is the most fun to learn when you have a tech disc because like it's just an instant result. Like it's right there what you threw.
Yeah.
And like back in Ken Climo era, they didn't have anything like this. They didn't have any type of disc golf enhancer like other than like grip on your hands like to throw. Like they didn't have any of that. So I think the way technology is with disc golf has improved, and it's insane. Like I think the sky is so bright, and the future is so bright for disc golf to where there's just gonna be more stuff like this. I think the tech disc is a step in that direction.
That was one of the things I was going to ask about is like I'm seeing more and more people talking about their experiences using something like that. You know, your average amateur players, and
Yeah.
if amateur players can have access to this type of technology and feedback to help themselves improve, or even to get coaching to improve, you know, imagine what pros can have access to with, you know, the best available talent to teach them, the best available tools to improve. And it's the same in any sport. Like as technology sort of combines with fitness, sports science, and all those things all together, you see this insane improvement. And I mean, I think we're seeing it more and more on the pro tour with how like accurately far players can throw is getting just mind blowing to those of us that aren't at that like cutting edge of getting to those levels. It's just nuts. Um, back to the metrics. Let's go to wobble. So wobble, I think, is something that you and I have talked about a bunch. You know, we don't cover form a lot in our videos. We're testing, comparing discs. We're talking about them, but a consistent comment that we see on the channel is about like, well, you know, this off-axis torque and wobble and this. And so obviously we've had a lot of conversations about
Yeah.
it.
Oh yeah.
And we try to make sure that we pick good clips that accurately show how discs fly. Like that's one of the most important things to me. But, you know, there's obviously it's going to be different for everybody.
Mhm.
But wobble being a specific focus of yours, like, did you feel like you saw improvement in that? Did the metrics line up with that?
Yeah, I originally thought whenever I pull the disc kind of like that towards me, like it's flat and then it's like vertical towards me, I thought that was what was causing the wobble a lot of it.
That's definitely what it looks
It
like.
looks like it is, but then once I kind of hit the power pocket more and not go from up to down like that,
Hmm.
it pretty much looks like it's wobbling, but it really wasn't. I think I went from I think it's in the stats. I think I went from like 7 wobble to like 2 or 3, which still there.
Sure.
But I mean, look at Isaac Robinson. He's got wobble when it pops it to flats. It's kind of like it's just how people throw, and
Well,
that's why.
I don't know that like wobble is inherently bad.
No.
Like if there's some amount of it and you understand how it connects with your form, your discs, and you know how to manipulate your discs with the variables that your body creates in the flight, then yeah, like what does it matter? You see like tons of players, and even watch some slow-mo clips of Garrett Gurthie.
Oh
He
yeah.
throws insanely high spin rate, all this stuff, but that disc will still come out wobbling.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, a perfect release every time.
Yeah.
So I think if you understand that form about yourself and how you throw, you can still manipulate your discs
Mhm.
and be a really, really talented player.
Yeah. And like you just said, with manipulating your disc, you can actually. I know that if I have a certain amount of wobble with a certain disc, I'm going to put a little extra hyzer on it because it'll pop up the flat. Which some of the discs that I throw with you, if they're super understable or if they're kind of like neutral, I have to put a little extra hyzer because I adjust for my wobble to where it'll just pop the flat and then you'll get the full flight.
Yeah.
You're still getting a basis of how the disc is going to fly. It's just right when it starts off because of how I throw to make it fly like that. It's just kind of different. But I mean, it definitely is something that everyone can see and comment. Like, it doesn't make me upset that I have wobble. It's just how I throw.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just how I have to manipulate my disc to fly. If I had 0 wobble, I would have a whole new bag. I wouldn't even know how to make this fly. You know, I'm so used to how they fly.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just how everyone has their own throwing style.
Obviously the tech disc focuses mostly on tangible, measurable results, right? It's data driven as a tool, but I'm curious over the time that you used it, did you notice any intangible results, stuff that the disc doesn't necessarily measure? Did you feel more confident on the course? Were certain shots, you know, easier for you or more accurate, that sort of thing?
Oh, I would say when I go to a course, I still feel I pretend like I'm throwing into the net. Like I'm whenever I'm on a course, if I'm like on a big drive, like 450 or something like that, I'm like, all right, let's act like we're doing the tech disc, hit the power pocket. I definitely feel like my hyzer flips have been way more dialed than they were before. Because my wobble again has went down to where I can kind of manipulate the hyzers to kind of have them just keep drifting.
Hmm.
Also my mid ranges have been really good recently. I don't know why. I don't know if it has anything to do with the tech disc because I'm throwing an Undertaker on the tech disc. So I don't know how that
Right.
would, but it's just something. I think it's
Do you
just
bag an Undertaker?
I have one.
Yeah.
It's yeah, but
I should have mentioned that earlier. The tech disc models, as far as I know, all of them are Discraft discs, ESP plastic, and you can choose between a putter, mid-range fairway, and distance driver. And ours that we picked just happened to be a fairway driver. Figured it would fit
Yeah.
better in the hand for any of us that wanted to
Mm.
use it. But it's kind of funny that it's like it's not even necessarily like a go-to disc for you, even though
Mm.
you've gotten that much practice with that
Yeah.
specific mold.
Yeah.
So, but maybe feeling a little more confident, certain shots easier.
Yeah, I would say just getting off the tee has been more confident. Because that's the one thing. Like my putting is what saves a lot of strokes for me is my putting. Like
Hmm.
I'm very confident with that. My approaching is very confident with my approaching. But getting off the tee recently, my backhand is either really early or it's super late. In the
Hmm.
tech disc recently, I've been finding that sweet spot when to let it like sling out, and I've been kind of doing this. I round a lot sometimes, and that's what also makes me come early. Because if I round on my left, it's gonna shoot that way, and if I reach back towards my right behind me, it's gonna go on that line.
Yeah.
And I've been really focusing on my reach back, and yeah, I just feel more confident with it overall. Because my miss is always early or late. In that tech disc, I feel like I've been really finding that power pocket in the sweet spot when to let go of it and when to just sling it for the touchy shots as well.
You've used the tech disc for a few months now,
Mm.
and you've had, I think, probably plenty of time to get used to it. If you were to start over with it today, not having used it at all, is there anything that you would do differently? Would you like are there any metrics that you felt like weren't helpful? Is there like you were talking about that focus early on speed, like, ooh, it's faster, faster,
Mhm.
faster. Would it would it change your mind now to start over and say, okay, maybe those things aren't important. Maybe speed comes from focusing on, other metrics individually, and then you see that those other things improve.
Yeah, I if I had to do it all differently, I wouldn't really care for speed. I mean, obviously, speed's the first thing when you throw it that you see. So it's
Yeah,
like,
it
oh,
is.
that was a
It's
fast
kind of
one.
there, like front and center for
Yeah,
a reason. I think.
it's
Yeah.
right there. So you'll see it and you'll think about it and be like, oh, whatever. But I would say spin for sure. That is 110%. I think what is going to help your game is just spin rate, and I'd probably go wobble again.
Yeah.
So I didn't go wobble earlier, but now when I really think about it, like spin and a clean release without wobble is just perfect. I mean, that is the two main things I feel like when you're throwing, other than like your form that you work with, but like that you want to focus on is the more spin, and if you can get a clean release without wobble, which obviously we're not robots. We're gonna have a couple. We're gonna
Sure.
have wobble. I mean, if you see all the slow mo guys that rip the disc, Drew Gibson, you see wobble come out, and then it just pops flat. But if I had to do it again, I would definitely say I would look at the wobble and probably the spin rate. I think the spin is the number one thing that is what helped me a lot with this disc.
I find spin really curious and or I don't know. I've been thinking about it more and more lately because I don't feel like I understand it. Like when I think about how do you throw far? How do you throw this? How do you throw that? I don't know if it's part of the reason why I'm not very good, but I just try to throw it harder. But that doesn't necessarily translate to making it fly further. And when I think about trying to put more spin on it, the only things that I can think of to try and make an adjustment on would be like how much I'm like curling my wrist or something, and then maybe the grip.
Mhm.
And is that like the specific grip I'm using or how tightly I'm gripping the disc? So I'm wondering like when you think about that, is there anything else that you might try and manipulate to specifically influence spin?
I I'm not really into fan gripping drivers in fairways.
Right.
But obviously, if you fan grip, you're going to get a lot more spin. Like I fan gripped it a couple times, and I think I got like 1200, 1300 just from fan gripping, like an extra 100 to 200 RPMs,
Interesting.
which is good. But then it just doesn't feel right in the hand. I don't get like a good launch out of it. I just get like a good spin rate out of my hand, which is fine.
Do you fan grip on like approaches or lower power shots?
I only anything 5 speed and below, I fan grip. Approaches, all fan grip. Mid range, all fan grip. But what I've been trying to do is I saw a lot of people they like videos and stuff is they kind of just leave their wrist kind of loose to where when you pull through it kind of just snaps with it. But spin is hard because a lot of people would just have it and some people don't.
Right.
And like a lot of the ultimate, that's gonna be a people hate when we just say ultimate players. Like, oh, we had to learn our form. You already had good wrist and good, so you understood most of it,
Yeah, the
which is fine.
basics, yeah.
You had yeah. But I feel like ultimate players are already gifted with a lot of spin, and I don't know who. I think it's just kind of random whoever can do it and can't. I mean, I can't really, because I've had people that have so much spin like throw with me, and they're like, try this, and it feels like it's coming out good, but then when I do it on the tech disc, it maybe be like 25 to 30 extra RPMs. Like it's nothing crazy.
Right.
And at that point, I might as well just go back to my normal form because I could misrelease it if I try that what they just told me. But there's got to be a way to do it, and I want to figure it out because I am eager to get to it.
Well, hey, I think this is as good a time as any to shout out to everyone watching. Get in the comments down below if there's something that you have found that specifically helps you. I think Caleb would like to hear about it as well.
Yeah, I would love to hear it.
Having used it for a few months, would you recommend it to other players as a way to help them improve?
100%. 100%.
Is there anything about it that you think may hold it back from more people using it at this point?
Okay, I take that back. I recommend it to players, not people that just don't have their form worked yet. Like I want them to have a basic form that they can replicate, and then you can start going over metrics. Because I mean, if you give someone the disc and then say go test out your metrics, they're just gonna, first thing, like I said, they're gonna try to just kill it and look at the speed and just forget all about their form because they want to see how high they can get. They're like, oh, look what I hit. I hit 65 and tell their friends and stuff, which I mean, I was the same way.
Sure.
When I hit 69, I was like, dude, I hit 69 on this thing. And no, I think to an extent, once they have a basic form replicated that they can just consistently do, then I would give them the disc. I wouldn't just give the disc to someone that barely even has a form, like that kind of just does standstills almost. Not like to like throw anyone under the bus, but just people that that are still new to the game and just want to kind of stand still, get their feel, hit the power pocket, and not really do many of an X step or anything yet. What about you though? I want to hear what you think about that.
So I think it's a really useful tool. I haven't used it for myself yet, but I think there's plenty of things that I could learn about my own form. And I think probably the biggest thing that's going to hold it back for now is just the price. $300 is a lot. That's a lot to kind of like, I think you have to be committed to the sport quite a bit already to be willing to spend that kind of money. But I think with any new product, with any new thing like that, if they're able to make it, less expensively, if they're able to streamline their operations, or if they're making more volume of it, that price is going to come down. So I think that might be a big factor in making it more accessible to the masses. But right now, like, I don't see realistically how most people are going to be willing to spend that much on it. I don't know.
Especially with you saying, like, if you were to give it to a beginner, like, I wouldn't want them to spend that money on it yet.
No, because I don't think they're going to learn enough about. I mean, they don't have form yet.
Exactly.
Right? You know, they're throwing nose angle 60 degrees up, and it's just shooting up in the air.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes, right? I actually taught a lesson to a guy who was just looking to add a little bit of extra distance, and he was in like that perfect spot where he's been playing long enough that he's ready to make little adjustments. Like he needs to adjust just a little nose angle, a little bit of, better reach back, stuff like that. And I feel like the tech disc could benefit him because he would be able to start to look and analyze and see those little things that need to change. But I think if any earlier than that, if you haven't been playing for, 6 months or a year or something yet, it's not going to do anything for you yet. It's like, oh, I've never driven a race car, so I'm going to hop in and I'm going to check out all the data. And the data just says that I suck at driving. Yeah.
No, I agree.
Cool, man. Well, it's been great having you here in the studio. This is a new setup, so I'm curious, what do you all think? Do you want to see more videos like this where we get together and talk about different stuff? The tech disc was a great tool to kind of start that with. And then, Caleb, I also want to ask you, what else is going on for the rest of the season? It's June right now. What big tournaments are you planning for the next few months?
Well, today is Monday, June 3rd. I have nationals. I leave for nationals on Thursday. So hopefully if I can get lead card or chase card, you might see me on coverage.
Nice.
Maybe, probably not, but maybe. We have nationals, and then the big one after that, I'm going to be getting into Ledgestone. I'm in Worlds, but I'm on a wait list because I didn't get in time.
That's World, yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm like 100 on the wait list. There's no shot I get in. But Ledgestone, I'll get in, hopefully.
Nice. Where is Nationals?
It is in Milford, Michigan. It's at Toboggan.
Oh, cool.
I'm really excited to play it.
Yeah.
I've never
Have you
played it.
You haven't played Toboggan before?
I just want to throw my test flight cicada off hole one. That's all I want to do. Just want to rip it. No, I'm excited though. I'm excited for the season. Yeah, I mean, this is, I eat, sleep, and play disc golf all the time. It's all I do when I go to bed. So I seriously like want to invest in this sport, as you guys already know, with Greg and everything. But yeah, and if you guys don't know, I also have a YouTube channel. It's Caleb Thomas DG. Greg will have it linked in the bottom. I also love to grow the sport, so I just want to make videos for you guys. And if you guys like them, subscribe maybe, or not, whatever you want to do.
No, definitely subscribe to Caleb's channel. And also comment below what kind of stuff do you want to see on his channel. Is that, you know, something you want to see, like his progress of him working with the tech disc or something like that, or you know, anything of that nature? Let us know in the comments below. But for Caleb, thank you so much for being here, and for all of you, thank you so much for watching. This has been All Six Sides, our podcast, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and join us next week for our big 10,000 subscriber special. If you haven't gotten in the giveaway, you need to get in before that video drops. All the winners, spoiler alert, there will be multiple winners, will be announced in that video, so get in there, and thank you so much for watching.
Thank you for having me, Greg. Stay safe, guys.
All right, see you next time. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of All Six Sides. Who would you like to see on a future episode? Leave a comment down below. For Six-Sided Discs, I'm Greg. We'll see you in the next one. If you like this content and want to see more, please consider liking the video, subscribing to our channel, or supporting us on Patreon. Your support makes this content possible.